Talk Show. Recorded live.
Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week we kick off our summertime horror retrospective with 1980's Blood Beach. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have. So warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, co-author with my friend Tony Salvaggio right here of Clockworks, coming on paperback in September. This is the movie where a young woman leads a team of mech pilots in Victorian London, and that's next week in softback, so we're very excited. All right, with me from Austin, in fact, is Tony Salvaggio, tech director of Rooster Teeth Productions, lead singer of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead bassist of the band Rise from Fire, and co-creator of Clockworks from Humanoids, which again comes out this month. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
That was a lot of plugging, and I apologize for over-plugging, but I'm super excited. And finally, also in Denver, as always, color commentary from the one and only attorney Julia Guzman. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Feels like it's been a while since you've been on the show.
It has been.
It's kind of funny.
I missed you guys.
We missed you as well. we totally missed
Drew
you.
and Jamie are off in Europe doing a European tour with Jamie's awesome band, so that's pretty exciting. We missed them as well.
Yeah, we really do, and they seem to be having a good time. They're running around Paris. You know, it's like they're in a Howard
Paris
Jones
and London, and who knows where else they're off to.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope they avoid all the tropes that we normally talk about with Paris and London.
Yeah, no, nothing from a Jean Roland picture will happen to them. It's all going to.
Well, they did go to the catacombs, so there's probably some creepy story. They actually come back with good stories every time they go someplace, so I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. We come back with no stories. Whenever you and I go somewhere, Julia, we always come back and say, like, how'd it go? Well, it was fine. The hotel was okay.
Yeah, Jason goes around challenging ghosts to come and find us, but they never do.
Yeah.
It only takes the once, though.
Well, I would just as soon not, but
I'm just saying that they have a good time. That they have a good time. Sometimes they run into ghosts. It's kind of awesome.
Yep.
All right, let's get our opening thoughts about this astonishing piece of film, Blood Beach. I don't know if you guys were aware of it, had heard of it, if we had watched it before, but we got everything from decapitated puppy dogs and I don't even know, rapists who are
wow, way to bring up the darkest stuff in the whole film.
A lot of stuff.
Just off the bat.
A lot of stuff going on in this film. Let's get our opening thoughts, Julia, Tony, and then I'll come up with something. Julia, tell me your thoughts about Blood Beach.
Well, supposedly the tagline, and it is a quote from the film, is just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, you can't get to it. It's like the idea of this film is to try to ride the coattails of Jaws a few years after, in 1980. Now we've been, 5 years after Jaws? They're trying to, get back that audience that has been longing for more Jaws goodness after the probably disappointment of Jaws 3 and whatever else comes after that. And so, but of course, it's just not, it's not Jaws. It's not by a long shot. So this film is about horror, not in the water, but on the actual beach. And it's just really not good. It's not good. But I tell you what, it would be really fun to see the Riff Tracks guys or the MST guys to have some fun with this movie, because there are some hilarious things about it. There's some interesting characters. There's a few good things. I'm not gonna say it's all bad, but I didn't. I thought it was entertaining, but it was definitely not a quality film.
I'm glad you found it entertaining. I think that's encouraging. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had seen this before, and it had been a long time ago, and I also am frantically over the past few days trying to find. I had a special effects or horror magazine. I thought it was Fangoria that did a special, and I wanted to say there were a lot. Like, they had images of holes all over with the creatures, maws, these kind of almost Sarlacc-y kind of creatures, and I don't know if that was that didn't make it, or if I'm thinking of another movie or what. But I mean, this movie, it has a lot of really crazy crap in it, and that part is cool. And it's definitely of a time. Like, it was an entertaining movie, but it's definitely not a really good movie.
Right. I think that's fair to say that it is entertaining. I don't know how much it wants to be good. This is my thought. Okay? We have watched movies kind of that are aiming at this same sort of thing, because we watched not long ago Zombies of Moratau, which
you
was
love saying that.
I do. I love saying Zombies of Moratau. But we watched that movie, and that was from the 50s, and it was clearly an attempt to be something that would be kind of creepy, kind of spooky, but really just something that you would watch some evening from your car. And I think to some extent, this is the same thing. It's a horror movie that is intended to give you some scares. I watched a version that had some gore in it. They had added back some gore and violence and nudity, which was kind of funny. That they had managed to, I guess, find old footage, if not poor inserts. I don't know. But and then sometimes it really seems to be trying to rise to another level, and I don't generally feel like it succeeds. But I thought it was definitely worth watching, because it's definitely part of the dialogue of horror adventure films that take place on the beach. So, and I feel like our listeners sort of enjoy it when we discover films that they haven't heard of, So, to the extent that our show, nearing its 200th episode, is a show that celebrates deep cuts, this is a deep cut. I mean, this is like a way back in the stack album that we've pulled out, and is kind of fun to explore. So, let's open up with just a discussion of the world of Blood Beach. All I'll talk about, what I'd say at first is, I love that this movie captures really well just the feeling of being on the beach. It's 1980, and we'll talk about what the heck that means in a second. But I love just how just washed out all of no matter where they are, if they're inside, and unless the sun is literally down, if the sun is up, it just blinds the camera. And I sort of like that, because it gives you the impression of really being there amongst just the incredible searing sun and heat of California. Julia, what did you think of the world here?
I guess, it's definitely 1980. You definitely feel that. I don't know. I guess to me, 1980 is sort of almost nondescript. Like, there's something about like the 70s and the 60s and the mid 80s that is just so, you know where you are. And then there's 1980 where it's kind of like, we're kind of the 70s, but we're not really that committed to it anymore, and we haven't figured out what the 80s are going to be yet. And so it's just sort of this, I don't know, I think washed out, the fact that it's washed out because of the sun kind of describes to me the universe that they're in. It's just kind of a washed out universe. I don't know.
Well, yeah, everybody looks like the 70s. I mean, when it comes down to it,
but they're not committed to it anymore.
Yeah, they're just tired. When it comes down to it, the description, I should have given this up front. So basically, in a sense, this is like a Baywatch movie. You've got your main characters are the beach patrol police. They go around in a boat. They go around in dune buggies and other vehicles like that, and they fight crime. Admittedly, not very much of it on this beach, and they run around, and they don't even bother to wear uniforms half the time. They're in plain clothes most of the time. That's our heroes, and then you've got a sort of second level of the cops who literally wear three-piece suits while they wander around the beach.
God, that just seems so stifling to me.
Just all the time. And so you've got these, generally...
Either that or everybody else is freezing, because they kind of got the impression that they were living in a different temperature, a different climate than the beachgoers.
Well, you raise a good point, Tony. I don't know if you noticed this, but it seems like our main character Harry, who is the hunky cop who swims across the water to to the cop station every day. You know, Harry and his buddy, the singing cop, they do seem to live in a different universe from Sergeant Royko, who's played by Burt Young, and John Saxon. Those guys.
He's not played by two people.
I'm sorry, Burt Young, John Saxon playing whatever John Saxon's character is called, but I just call him John Saxon.
Right.
But those guys are together most of the time, but they're in the cop stations, and it's very likely that they filmed just separately from the rest of the cop cast a lot, you know, so that they just, you know, got a lot.
Possibly in a different season.
Very possibly in a different season. So yes, I like that there's. You mentioned the washed outness. There's a certain sleaziness to it. You know, the impression I always get from 1980 is that people still had that late 70s feeling of the world kind of falling apart. You know, like as though somehow the United States is sort of on its last legs. All the cars are old. You know, there's just sort of a dreariness. Well,
I think we're all just expecting to get blown up by the Russians at that point.
Well, that's a significant thing, yeah. You know, and you know, it's the dawn of the Reagan era, but you know, so Reagan has promised morning in America, but you know, but generally there's just this feeling of everything needs to be replaced. You know, the central motif of the film, and this is why I hope that in this retrospective we get a chance to watch Night Tide, because I think we'll see some of the same buildings. But the central, like, big motif of the film is this this pavilion building, this old arcade that is decrepit and falling apart, and the city doesn't even have enough money to tear it down. So it's just a giant abandoned building sitting behind a chain link fence next to the boardwalk. And, you know, that's where it takes them really way too much time to figure out that that's where a lot of bad shit is happening. But it's an example of the infrastructure of this world that is just simply, you know, unsustainable and not being replaced because we're not capable of.
I mean, that may be one of the things that I feel like makes it a far inferior film to Jaws, is that Jaws is an energetic film. Like, you feel like people are excited to be in this town. They're excited to be alive. You know what I mean? It just kind of feels like, and here it's kind of like, well, there's the beach. We could do that. You know, it's just kind of like,
in other words, it is like really, it feels like a beach town when there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
Right? It has that, like, you know, at least Jaws has the tourist season going for it. Where this one just has, like, hey, and by the way, I like to know what it starts to put together that anybody who's around the main, you know, swimming cop, like, maybe he's just bad mojo. Because everybody around him starts, like, they never really, of course, you know, nobody's really all that great either. Like, Chicago guy is terrible. Like,
yeah.
The coroner is just a freak show.
He's so weird.
So
man, I want to know
both of those characters are like take turns mumbling at each other. They're completely incomprehensible.
I really want to know, like, what direction they're like. Okay, so you're the coroner. That's a little off-putting. Can you really, really push that? Like, can you just be, creepier than anybody who even, like, can you just be the creepiest person you've ever seen or known and you would just creep yourself out? Can you do that? Oh, yes, thank you.
And while you do that, try not to say anything that anybody can possibly understand.
Yeah.
And see if you can stretch out the scene for a good 10 minutes while you just blather on about things that are incomprehensible to anybody.
The guy you're talking about, so when people start turning up dead on the beach or eaten by the beach and body parts are left behind, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, you've got this actor, Tony, this is the one you're talking about, called Stefan Jirash. So our hero is the hunky Harry Calder. The second hero is sort of, you know, John Saxon, the guy from the Bruce Lee movies, you know, the kung fu fighting, you know, reliable cop actor who always shows up.
And from what you call it?
Yeah, Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
New Nightmare. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Burt Young as Sergeant
Saxon's
Royko.
solid. I mean, he's always solid in every movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously not above being in this one.
No. And there's lots more where that came from. But and we'll talk about Royko in a second. But you've got this guy, the actor is Stefan Girosh, and he plays Dr. Demetrios. He is, like you said, he's the coroner. And it is the weirdest performance. It's almost like he's in a different movie from everybody else. Because everybody else is in this sort of goofy mystery thriller where they're just sort of bopping around. There's, and whereas this guy, he's smoking a pipe all the time. He's wearing this itchy wool sweater, in Los Angeles, next to a beach.
Which again makes me wonder if maybe it's not actually cold and all the poor beach people are freezing their butts off to make this movie.
Well, maybe, but he is. It's true. He there's a real feeling that this is a gentleman that you probably, when he gets off of work, I don't know if you want to hang out with him, because I don't know what the hell he's going to do when he goes home. It's very strange. And he's always sort of musing, and he'll say something about how he thinks that there might be more to this problem than meets the eye, and you might go, what? And he would probably just sort of smile weirdly. He's a very strange individual. I agree with you, Tony.
He's like Torgo weird.
He's weird.
Yeah, he is. I don't want to see that guy's house, and I certainly don't trust him to have a basement.
Right.
Whatever's in that basement, no one, the rest of the cops. And you
don't
get
let
the
your
impression
children
the cops
hear him,
are
that's
like,
for sure.
Look, he knows science stuff, so we put up with him. But man, I know we're gonna bust him for something at some point.
He does say one great line. He has a really wonderful. I think it's a really wonderful line. Later on, I hate to spoil anything in this movie, but who cares? When they say, they have a plan to blow up what eventually they reveal to be the creature, and he says, he talks about worms and how animals like that can divide themselves.
Which,
and he goes,
of course, as soon as he says that, you're like, well, that's going to happen.
Right. But he says, if we blow this thing to smithereens, what happens to every smithereen? And that's a great line.
In his head, he's thinking, and also, how can I hug them?
How can I collect the body parts?
That's the kind of creepy creep that guy is. If they blow the parts of smithereens, how can I hug them? Or cook them? Or pet them?
Smithereens into a dainty necklace.
Yeah.
Okay, Sergeant Royko, meanwhile, is Burt Young. This is literally Burt Young from the Rocky movies, okay?
Yeah, he is.
He's literally playing Cousin Paulie, or whatever the hell you call him. And he is, just like we just said, Dr. Demetrios is really, really troubling and slimy. Burt Young plays a loathsome individual. I mean, he's another detective. He's here for some reason in Los Angeles working as a detective, and he literally is, his character is so loathsome, he's incapable of saying anything remotely human to anyone. He mumbles all the time.
He also, most likely to not know that Archie Bunker is supposed to be humorous. B, is way ahead of the tip of, why does everything have to be too PC these days? I mean,
right.
He's constantly what I say? Meet my cousin, Andrew Dice Clay. He also is, we also agree on lots of things. There's nothing this guy doesn't say that's not what? You don't get it? What? He's just that guy all
He'll say something
time.
rude.
And he's constantly Chicago, they constantly threaten to send him back to Chicago. I mean, and everything is, this wouldn't happen in Chicago. We treat this differently in Chicago, by the way. We don't let our monsters attack the beaches. Or any number of things. Hippies. I mean, man, this guy, extremely reprehensible. But, played really well by Burt Young. I mean, he's good at it.
Burt Young's doing a wonderful job. He just makes no sense as a character. I mean, I can't even. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Archie Bunker would tell him to lighten up because he just everybody he runs into, he'll make a joke about dead people that they loved. He'll make a joke about like weird violence things. When
when he finds the girl, the eyeball on the beach, he's like, "Hey, what color eyeballs did your girlfriend have?" Like,
what? Why is everybody mad? What? You guys need to be less, just too PC around here. I'm asking
exactly.
No offense to me at all. For such a I can't believe I'm going to, for even a moment, think about what makes such a character tick as though it were a real person. But let's pretend for a moment this is for a real person. For such a character to make any sense, he would have to, for some reason, have this philosophy that life is a constant battle with everyone. And
he does come from like Al Capone land or whatever, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
And he reminds you, Chicago.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh my God. Well, anyway, so the guy who created this movie has created two fairly interesting characters, which is
and also the bag lady who there's this hilarious
tell us about that.
This hilarious observer character who just is around just to kind of note things, and she's so funny. Jason was saying that maybe that's what Lily Tomlin. Well, although did this come first?
No, this is patterned after one of Lily Tomlin's characters.
Patterned after Lily Tomlin. Yeah. There was a Lily Tomlin character that was like kind of bag lady-esque, and that was very much like this. But anyway, she's just so odd, and she's like, at first you just kind of think she's just this bag lady, but then all of a sudden she walks past this musician and starts to do this hilarious dance, and then goes on about her business. And I mean, she's just, she kind of sees everything and knows about everything and just doesn't say much. And I don't know, she's really, really funny. This is another wacky character. So I do think that's what made it entertaining, is there were these odd characters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they got their money's worth out of all the actors. Although, man, Harry, David Huffman, his character, to be the, cool, good guy, he's kind of dangerous to be around, because anybody related to him gets sucked down into the beach.
I think the way the town is presented in this world, Santa Monica is a very tiny community where literally everybody knows and is in everybody else's business all the time.
Who was it that you went to see that called it Santa Monica?
Santa Monica?
Yeah.
Santa Monica is what it's called in the introduction to the live version of Bodhisattva on the Stevie.
That's right.
But also, he's like, hey, my old flame is. I mean, I know I'm going out with this hot, model girl.
Oh my God, that was so reprehensible.
Hey, my old girlfriend's back. Maybe we should hook up. Let me just go visit her while my girlfriend's away.
Yeah.
Well, my girlfriend's not away. No, my girlfriend, he actually talks to her on the phone, and she says she's coming to see him. And then I guess she didn't show up quick enough because he's like, well, I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to go over to my ex-girlfriend's house.
I'm going to bring a bottle of wine to my ex-girlfriend.
And meanwhile, his poor girlfriend's getting sucked up by the beach.
Yeah.
Well, she shouldn't have done that because she calls to him. I mean, that's the problem is that she calls to him, and then it's like, hey, this is what's going on. Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, we got you.
Sorry. Yeah, my phone's acting weird. You can edit that if you want. But she's calling out to him, and then he's like, well, I didn't hear. Man, it's been at least an hour. I'm way too much of a playboy to possibly go out searching for her or wonder what's going on. It's not till the next day that he even sees her car and like, well, that's weird. Well, I was going to bring my supper to my ex-girlfriend's house. My girlfriend may have actually been here.
Mm-hmm.
That guy. I mean,
yeah,
but it's not presented. The movie doesn't present it as though there's anything untoward about his actions. I don't think he makes out.
That's the late '70s, early '80s, right there. That's hey babe, I got to do what I can do because I'm pretty hot stuff. And my friend, by the way, is in a band. He's a singer, so
Oh boy.
keeping up
No, I mean
spirits.
they may not be exclusive. To be fair, he and the stewardess may have an arrangement.
She seems to think, I don't know, she seems to think that they have a thing going on, and she doesn't seem to think that maybe he should be with his ex.
So just to remind the viewer, by the way, the reason the ex is in town, he had a serious girlfriend, and she left to go do her art thing in another city.
He
and
almost
she has
married
changed. He says, "You've changed." She goes, "You haven't." In other words, people. So to the extent that this thing has any themes, it's saying if you are a part of a beach town and you stick around, your life freezes. You don't. Nothing changes about it, and that's probably, at least in the popular imagination, that's true. In a community like this, life just moves forward, and you don't even notice that.
Well, in any community, really. The fact is, if you stay stagnant, it doesn't matter where you are. That's just what your experience is,
Right. But I mean, to me, he's got a pretty great life. He gets up he's got a place on the beach that probably costs like $4 million. These houses, by the way, I love how realistic the whole thing of them parking in the alley between the houses but I mean, those houses are very expensive. I mean,
well, maybe not then. So
yeah, who knows? That's a good point. That's a good point about Santa Monica. So yeah, there's a creature that they haven't figured out yet that is scurrying around, and so they're just trying to figure out, why is this thing eating people? Is it, and it is. I mean, it'll like grab your foot, it'll grab you under, it'll grab part of you.
Why do you suppose it goes under the sand?
Yeah, so let's talk about what this creature actually turns out to be.
So that is kind of creepy, because it's a good effect, because it's got this awesome, like sand, hourglassy sand dropping effect, where suddenly sand will start sucking down, and then the person will get either bitten or just sucked under like quicksand.
Yeah.
And that's actually a pretty good effect. I mean, it's not fake looking at all. It's very authentic.
Okay, so describe it. What I'm trying to understand is, this thing lives. It's a plant. It turns out
it's like a Venus flytrappy,
and it can move. It's not stuck in
one
place.
It's like a Feed Me Seymour style plant. Yeah.
Yeah. It's but unlike Seymour, it can move around. It can like.
Well, Seymour's not the plant, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Audrey. Unlike Audrey 2, it can swim apparently under the sand.
Yeah.
And like, when it senses somebody, it can just like, I guess it opens itself. That causes the sand to suck down into itself, and then it just starts to eat you.
But it doesn't eat you there. It seems to drag you from the sand to its lair under the carnival, whatever the arcade, like you called it.
Yeah.
That's where it lives. That's where it seems to eat people, because that's where they find all these discarded body parts.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I think it's possible that makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
Because it's this thing. Certainly, this is not. I don't know. This isn't Michael Myers. There's no reason for it to be like stuffing body parts into like different portions of this underground lair the way it is.
You don't know. You don't know that creature. Maybe that's fun.
You're totally right. And maybe that's just the way we view it. Maybe it in fact is just doing it. It's got a bunch of extra feet, and it just like looks for a place to stick them, and just goes, whoop, and like puts them all up there.
Or maybe maybe puts it there like it's fridge. Like, well, the dog
for later. It's like a chipmunk. They're storing its food for the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there was a really dumb scene when they discover when the ex-girlfriend, whoever, what's that character's name? I don't have my cast list up, but anyway, the female, heroine.
Yeah.
When she discovers that lair, all of a sudden all the body parts just start falling down out of the ceiling, and I'm like, why? Why is that happening? It didn't make any sense at all.
Catherine Hudson goes down. I will say that the sequence where Harry climbs down into that basement level.
Well, he doesn't find all the body parts. He doesn't.
But when he climbs down there, and he's just sort of poking around to see if maybe there's there's something down there that's connected to these recent murders.
Running into sharp hooks.
That is real. I was actually really scared by that sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was very creepy because I totally felt his isolation. That if you find yourself climbing down into a basement of a destroyed building, and there's like hooks hanging around, and there's some light coming in from above. I don't know. I just kind of feel like he shouldn't have. If this were a realistic movie, there's no way that this character would go down there alone. It just makes no sense. You would definitely immediately back out and go, I would like at least one other person.
Well, no, what's she doing going down there by herself, too? I mean, they're all kind of stupid when it comes to that.
There is not a lot of solid detecting going on.
No.
Even the detectives aren't doing a great deal.
No.
I mean, John Saxon, who's like the head detective or whatever he is, maybe he's the chief of police.
He's just making jokes.
And he's fighting with look how much there is in this movie. We have scenes, like at least 2 scenes that involve him just fighting with city council to get resources.
Right, which again
I love
is
the city council part where all of a sudden you've got like a horror movie and then there's like character stuff, and then all of a sudden you've got John Saxon just giving the city council the what for. Like keeping it super real. Like insults you will only hear in this movie.
Right.
Good insults, crafty insults, and just crazy insults.
Yeah, there was a hilarious. I wish I could. I looked on the IMDb quotes, but they don't have it listed. I need to find that passage when he just comes up with all these hysterical insults. It was like if you've seen the David Tennant reads Scottish insults. Was it Donald? Did it talk about Donald Trump? I think. Yeah, it was about when Donald Trump was in Scotland in Scotland during the Brexit, and he's like, "Your country has voted, whatever, blah blah," and they're like, "Scotland voted to, stay."
You vomitous windbag.
It was just like
whatever.
that.
Yeah, so John Saxon does hurl amazing epithets.
Yeah. His. I mean, John Saxon keeps it super real, like really, really, really real in that.
And this is an example of where the movie is kind of, and you mentioned Jaws. Okay, this is being filmed in '79. This is only a year after Jaws 2. So, yes, to the extent that it wants to be a Jaws movie, it's like, well, what happens in Jaws movies? You got to have stupid, dumbass city officials who want to keep the cops from doing what they need to do. And
the fact is, to be truthful, that is actually very realistic.
Oh yeah.
The city, I mean, your dad is in city government. The city government exists to tell people not to spend their money on stuff.
Well, no, that's true. That is true. I think that without Jaws, I could be wrong about this, but I feel as though without Jaws, a movie like this would not have the cops as the main characters. I mean, that's the one thing that because. Most monster movies, I feel like the
it's
main
like teenagers
are
main characters.
Yeah, a bunch of teenagers, and to some extent, that's why this movie has the main character is a young-ish person. He's a cop, but he doesn't really wear a uniform most of the time, so in a sense, they've just taken a character almost identical to the guy in The Blob. Steve McQueen as played in The Blob, where in that case he was a young person just in the community, but he had like a really close relation. I mean, it was an adversarial relationship, but nevertheless he knew all the cops. They knew him. He could get information to them really quickly. To some extent, they've taken a non-cop character and just sort of made him a cop because they're like, well, Jaws has cops, and Jaws has stupid city officials. So, check. Here we go. It is really a Jaws knockoff. We could do a totally different retrospective of just movies that are Jaws knockoffs.
Well, so what makes Jaws so much better than this film?
Oh, please go into that. I'd love to know.
Competency, planning, better actors. Again, I go back to this was entertaining. So in a lot of ways, I'm like. Don't want to rank on it too much, but yeah, I mean, better script. There's any number of reasons why
it wastes huge amounts of time in long, boring scenes.
Well, the music in this movie is good, actually, and it's not obviously the score in Jaws is phenomenal. But the score in this film is not bad.
What's your thought, Tony?
What? The subtitle should be Blood Beats the Soundtrack on the nose. Every single cue is like, dun, dun, dun. Oh, wait, here's the sad part. Listen to this very sad music that we dug up somewhere. Oh, man, no. That was one of my notes, is the soundtrack is just every...
Oh, really?
Like, if people are at all, like, sad, it's like, okay, give me something sad. No, sadder. Can you make it more cliche? Oh, there we go. Yes. If it's horrific, wing, wong. Like, okay, so you've seen horror movies. I want all the horror movies right now. Okay, yes, there you go.
Okay.
It's awful. Man, that's one thing I kept like coming back to. I'm like, it's like there's heavy-handed, and then there's like an iron gauntlet that's covered in white dwarf matter that went through a black hole and came out the other side. And when you wear it, the universe collapses. And that's
Tony, I wish you would tell us how you really feel, though.
Well,
I just think I have to say that because I just think it's funny. Like, oh, the score was good. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it does everything a score supposed to do. It's
well,
just,
that's the thing about the whole film. The whole film is that.
The
whole film is doing that. It's like every piece is something that Jaws did, and so let's do that here. But the whole point of it being about Jaws being great is that it was original with Jaws. The Jaws did it first. Jaws did it, and it was interesting. And here it's just a Jaws ripoff or another horror movie ripoff.
So the finale is interesting because once again, our hero Harry has gone on an adventure, you know, in fine Hollywood tradition. You know, the girl's mom has died, so she's come back to town. Harry and Catherine are hunting for clues about this monster separately and together, putting themselves in danger. Meanwhile, the higher-up cops are investigating, and they have decided for sure that it's got to be hiding somewhere in this basement. And so they wire up the basement with enough explosives to, you know, destroy the entire building. And then the end comes sort of quickly without much happening at all. The monster just sort of rears up and makes itself seen for the first time. And so Burt Young just blows up the creature, like without even asking anybody or anything. And
he was tired of having to patrol that stupid arcade anyway. Anything the creature is just ancillary. He's like, wait, okay, so we don't have to worry about druggies and hobos and anybody else who inhabits that arcade, and I don't have to send patrols out there all the time. Awesome. Oh no, there's a monster. Click. Did I destroy this terrible property and not have to do as much work? Surprise! Oh no, I saw it. Who saw that? No, trust me, I had to blow it up.
There was a monster down there.
There was obviously monsters. If anybody didn't see that, it's the truth. Sorry about the arcade, but that was the plan anyway. So you know. There you go.
I have two thoughts about your theory. One is of course that I don't get the impression that Royko was interested in ever patrolling or even
no, of course.
But the interesting thing is that it plays back into the weird machismo of this Royko character, you know, where this sort of anti-intellectual idea, like, you know, a real man knows what to do. He's just going to go right up and blow.
Oh no, that's really it. Like I have a solution. If I had my choice, I would blow up a lot more things. Hippies, you know, I would blow them up. All of them, you know, druggies, freaks, you name it. Like any derogatory term he could throw out, he would also want to blow them up.
This is funny.
This one happened.
Remember Cobra with Stallone?
Oh yeah, I love that movie. By the way.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you know, in answer to things like Dirty Harry and stuff, just continuing that conversation, you know, by the time you get to Cobra, he's saying things like, "I don't deal with psychos, I kill them." And the funny thing about that is, you know, I don't remember anybody ever saying, it is so weird how characters like this are fighting constantly with a complete straw man that doesn't exist. There's no like crazy cartoon person who's like, find me some psychos, I would like to make deals with them. That isn't how anything works. You know,
you don't
people,
know. Dude, you haven't lived the mean streets, Jason.
That's true. I mean,
so,
but that's the way.
Little do you know how often that Royko has to deal with perverse villains who are like, okay, psychopaths. Well, in Cobra, though, granted, and that's off topic a little bit, but in Cobra, there are a bunch of psychopaths employing psychopaths.
Sure.
Like those hammer guys are psychopaths. Now,
they live in a world that's been sculpted for them, you know. So that of course, you know, like in Dirty Harry, that guy. Remember, the reason Dirty Harry's so mad is that Dirty Harry got. I can't believe I remember this, but Dirty Harry found evidence to put the Zodiac Killer away, or whatever he was called. But he went free because Dirty Harry just kind of walked in and taken shit and didn't get a search warrant.
Right.
Dirty Harry doesn't like
Royko. Yeah,
constitutional law.
Yeah, but Royko doesn't live in that. Royko lives in, you know, basically our world, but with this crazy monster. Yes. But it doesn't prevent him from thinking that if he could, he would blow up all of the hippies, geeks, freaks, whatever. Like again, whatever name he would call things, he would like to blow them up, especially if they were in Chicago. Because in Chicago they don't deal with that.
Yeah, they don't let that fly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Chicago obviously kicked him out. You got to wonder, by the way, you know, if there were a television series called Royko, why is he in Los Angeles? Like, what dumb shit has happened?
Well, that's the thing. It's all hippie liberal in California, unlike
I'll bet
Chicago.
You it's something really like embarrassing, and not in like a truly like a sexual embarrassing kind of way. I mean something embarrassing to him personally, like. I bet his mom is sick and lives in L.A. and he's come out to take care of her or some dumb shit like that.
No, I think they were like, even Chicago doesn't want you, man. Or he moved there thinking, hey, you know, maybe I'll get out of the winter, and then, but he's constantly like, well, it's a decent paying job and it's less stressful, but man, if I know how I would deal with this if I was in Chicago. And that's his constant mantra. I mean, it's this constant mantra for like an hour and a half in this movie. But in general, you know, every time,
like
look at that. You know, he's the kind of guy who's like driving and he points. Would you look at that? That would never happen in Chicago. So finally, when he gets to blow up a monster, he's like, "This is how we do it." Click.
And ironically. He turns out to be wrong. Dr. Demetrios turns out to be right. Demetrios said, blow this thing up and you're going to get a billion little baby monsters. And that turns out to be real. So apparently, even though there's no sequel to this
I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to see the baby Audreys or whatever.
Yeah. No, good point.
That's okay. The doctor has like at least 3 of them in his bathtub.
Yeah.
You know,
along with several body parts.
Oh yeah,
definitely a flaw.
Well, he has access to body parts.
Yep.
It is
much like Audrey. There you go.
Yeah. Paul doesn't get to help. I mean, the main or Harry. I'm sorry, Harry and Kat. They don't help finish the story at all. In other words, by the time you get to the end, our main characters have kind of been shunted to the side. And the only characters left who have any say over really what's going to happen are, oddly enough, the mumbling and bizarre Dr. Demetrios and the mumbling and insulting, Sergeant Royko. Those are the last 2 guys. They sit there in the band together and then kill the monster.
There's your buddy movie right there. Royko and Demetrios.
That would be the worst movie ever.
Yeah.
That would be worse than Mono's Hands of Fate.
Okay, look, I know it's disappointing that there's not much to talk about in this movie.
I think that we found plenty to talk about in this movie.
Is there anything else that we need to discuss in this particular film?
The rapist guy getting his dick bitten off.
Oh, yes. I mean, if, although that is where Royko does shine. He's like, what, you want me to feel sorry for this guy? Like, in Chicago, all the
rapists
get their dicks bit off by monsters. I mean, that's just how
I
it
mean,
is.
that was like, so talk about, like, the cliche, like, check mark things. Like, you kind of are like, okay, this poor girl is about to get raped by this guy, and then he gets his dick bitten off by the monster, and part of you is like, yeah, okay, I'm down with that, and then the other part of you is like, oh, but it just feels like such a cheap thrill for me.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt
so
about
gratuitous.
that. Yeah, it's not good. I mean, none of it's good as far as but like, you're like, well, I don't know if I feel that
It's
bad.
funny, if people are considering watching this movie, it is really, this movie, even to the extent that it has nudity in the version I saw, this movie would be practically PG-13 and maybe even lighter, because there's no live gore. They do find body parts afterwards, but there's essentially this is just not a hardcore film. This is essentially, go ahead.
Yeah, and this is why, like, I'm trying to think, and I'm still trying to find what movie, because I was sure it was this one, had all of the weird creatures, like, I don't know if they'd planned it, or whatever I saw in Fangoria that I remembered, and again, that was years ago.
Let me know.
And I keep trying to find the magic, like, I thought that there were more creatures with more, like, teeth and stuff like that, and I just don't know what movie that was, now that I think about it. Because, it's not as gory as, like, a Fangoria thing. Maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, and they showed some of the gore from, like, the people getting eaten and stuff, because, there's the dog, and there's, like, girl that they find.
The poor dog. Yeah, the poor dog is like, his owner got sucked up in the sand, and so then he's kind of obsessed with trying to dig her back out again. So he's like over there, and then the monster eats his head. That was really sad.
Oh, where's the reaction? Like, there's no skin. Like the Demetrius character where he's describing, like, it's probably a person that does this, or at least, I mean, I've never done that. You can't pin anything on me. I've never ripped the head off a dog and drank its blood in the moonlight. I mean, that's a crazy person would do that. That's just the kind of guy Demetrius is. I mean, freaking just bizarre and creepy.
That's really funny, Tony.
But yes, I'm trying to. The reason I actually enjoyed this movie. Well, and this is my second time seeing it. I can't believe I've seen this movie twice. I am honestly a sucker for any kind of like thriller that takes place on the beach. So, I definitely sort of enjoy the appearance of this seaside community. Having said that, this movie, I got to say, and this is my only final thought really, this movie fails to establish any sort of pace, any sort of tempo. It only creates interesting characters in its most ancillary characters, and it completely screws up its own ending because its main characters are nowhere near what's happening. It is almost like a weird first draft of a movie that they just ran out of time and said, you know what, let's start filming this. We have a draft. Let's not even fix it, and let's just go.
It's very, in that respect, it's a very Corman aesthetic. Like, I got it. How long do we have? I don't think so. Like, how long? Wait. Okay.
This is Run Run Shaw, my friend. This is a Shaw Brothers production.
That's the note I forgot. It was produced by Shaw. Like, how'd that even happen?
How did that come to pass? Yeah, I don't know. The main character, the director and writer is Jeffrey Bloom. And somehow he got money from Run Run Shaw to make what essentially would have been just a drive-in picture that they probably did make their money back, I have to imagine.
I really do want to see the Riff Tracks guys do this.
Well, the reason why they'd be good at it is that there's no pacing in this film.
Yeah, there's so much just slowness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's vast seconds between different lines of dialogue where you could go ahead and put in lots of jokes.
Yeah. They should do it. We just send it to them.
I have to point out, Alamo Drafthouse, I believe, did re-release this movie. So Tim League might have different feelings about it. He might, so I encourage him.
Stephen Morano, I think, did a poster for it, and I respect him. It's again, it's an entertaining movie, and for as much as we kind of poke fun, as far as horror movies go, I'm down with I would have rented this on VHS at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't have access to it. I don't know why I didn't back in the day. That's what's even more crazy to me is my brothers and I totally would have. I don't know why we never did see Blood Beach until I saw it, way later. Probably rented it from Vulcan or something.
I only saw it a couple of years ago. So I think somehow or another it just wasn't particularly available. By the way, this movie has been remade. There is a 2015 version called The Stand, if you can believe this. And
I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean, God knows I'll probably watch it and see like what I can report back.
But maybe we talk all the time about how hey, if there's something that has good ideas, why not remake it and make it better? I haven't heard much about it, so I'm guessing maybe that didn't happen. But again, if it's better, then at least if it's at least as entertaining, then cool.
I think it's a United States movie. So let's see. Well, who knows? I will report back here and let you know.
Sure.
So no problem. All right, let's get our final thoughts. This is, we spent I think 3 or more hours talking about Creepshow. This is not a movie that requires that kind of discussion. Let's get our final thoughts. Julia, first of all, are you angry at me for making you watch Blood Beach, and what are your final thoughts?
No, if I'm going to be angry at you for making me watch something, it's going to be a lot of stuff that's not Blood Beach.
Okay.
No, Blood Beach, like I said, is entertaining. It actually does have some worthwhile moments in it, and there's nothing terribly gory, which of course is my big turnoff. So I found it just fine, and it's not Jaws, and it wants to be Jaws, and it can never be Jaws, and that's just how it is. But it's okay.
Excellent. Tony, what about you? What are your final thoughts on Blood Beach?
It's entertaining. It's got a lot of, as far as horror tropes go, it's got a lot going for it. It's definitely of a time, it's if you want to see a quintessential 80s horror movie, this just does it in spades,
Yeah.
It's not bad. There is some great character acting, maybe over the top character acting. Everybody goes for broke, but I guess that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
It does, like you said. I think it's one of its biggest sins is it pushes some of the main characters, they're pretty bland.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other characters stand out, who are also sometimes sort of kind of in another movie. There's a detective movie, and then there's also kind of the beach monster movie, and when they converge is where it actually works some of the best. But yeah, it's a fun 80s horror movie that doesn't try to be anything kind of other than what it is, which is, hey, if you like Jaws, we can up the gore in some ways and give you something crazy so you'll be afraid of the sand as well,
Excellent. Yeah, there are moments in it, there are memorable things, but generally, there's clearly this is something that they probably could have done something really memorable, with some really good payoffs, given a lot of the same ideas and just rearranged a little bit. But you know what? Sometimes it's nice to watch a sort of a second film, and Tony's exactly right. Tony, if we were 16 years old and this was the fifth movie we watched in some crazy Friday night, I think we would find it quite satisfying.
Oh, plus, if you rent it and you're that age, like most 80s horror movies, you were there because, there's boobs.
There's right. There's
which
like
is, now it's like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. But like at the time, that would have been like, hey, so and so, your friend saw it last week. So the beginning doesn't have any of that. So your parents can go to bed. By the way, into it, there's a hot model. You're like, oh, okay. Oh, can we rent this horror movie just because it's horror? Nothing else at all, ever.
That's actually how I picked what to watch back then. Is you had the TV guide, and it would say like
rated
language,
whatever
violence,
for nudity,
sexual situations.
Oh
right.
Man, yeah. The HBO / Cinemax guide at the time was awesome because you're like, check.
Right.
This things are going well. Oh, it's SC sexual content. Check again. When are you guys going to bed? Oh, you have a TV in your room? Oh, yeah, we'll be watching. Definitely MTV.
Right.
Not Cinemax
Friday Night Video
at all. Yeah, Friday night. We'll be watching Friday Night Videos on a not cable channel because we wouldn't want to see anything at midnight ever that has that. Those are bad. Those are bad letters. We wouldn't want that. Yeah. But this would have all the check marks, or at least, not as bad, but it would definitely have, sexual situations, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I would feel really ripped off by some of these sexual situations, where you wait, it's like boring. You finally get to a scene, it's like, the light's gotten a little blue, there's like moonlight, something's going to happen.
Well, it's always worse. It could be like some of the Something Weird Wednesdays where you're like, I think this is supposed to be sexy, but please stop doing everything you're doing right now. So,
and now we're at the age where the thing that got us the most excited was that we could see the boom mic in that one scene. We were like, oh, boom mic, look, boom mic.
SC whatever. Look, boom mic. Yeah.
The funny thing, by the way, about that, I did notice the boom mic a couple times. Although I have to say, to some extent, I've heard that it's a little unfair for me to be picking that out because of the way that films, sometimes we're watching films now in ways that they weren't intended originally to be watched, so that the film may have been cropped differently in a movie theater or whatever. I don't know.
When you say that, I'm picturing like, yes, I never watched it upside down on the couch. We're watching films like you sat in the theater. You didn't, hide behind the sconce and I don't know. I just picture all these no, we were never meant to see the movie like that.
Yeah.
From underneath the lazy boy. That was we saw it in the theater. We got intended.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's get our endorsements and figure out what people are enjoying, what people are watching, what you're suggesting. Tony, actually, Julia, I'm sorry. We should get you first. Julia, do you have anything to endorse for us this week?
Well, for me personally, I've been not consuming much media because I've been opening my little law office as an immigration lawyer, so that's been consuming a lot of my time. However, I would like to plug you guys' whatever the possessive is of that. Clockwork. Use guys Clockwork book. Because it's exciting to me, and I know we've talked about it now for a while, but it's exciting to me that it's in English, written by you guys, English. Because, again, I'm sure we've told the story several times now, but initially when you wrote it in English, it was in order for it to be translated into French, and then they translated it into French, and then they edited it to fit with the art that they had created for that book, and so then when they translated it back to English, it was a complete mess, and it was nothing like your original script, and you couldn't use your original script because of the art, so you had to rewrite it. So now it's in English again.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting.
There's most of our stuff there, actually, to be fair. But there were a lot of things that, yes, we did have to massage. Let's put it that way.
Well, it's our stuff, but it wasn't, yes, when they gave us back the translation, they were like, you need to do this translation or an adaptation of it because it's set up to match with the art.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, Tony, of course, all of our original dialogue was gone. So we had to dig out the old script to figure out, what was this line supposed to be before it was translated into French
and then back again.
back again. What in the world was this? Yeah, that was kind of cool. That was a really interesting exercise. There is actually a competition going on that everybody should know about until 9:30 if you want to design
You mean like September 30th, not 9:30?
I'm sorry. Yeah, until September 30th. Design a mech, because this is a mech story. If you want to design a mech, which in our world are called clocks, you can tweet it, you can email it, look for the link on Castle of Horror Facebook page, and the winner will get a signed paperback from me and Tony. And if you're going to use social media, the hashtag is show us your clock. We want
make sure you add the L.
Oh.
Keep the L. That is important.
Yes. This is not for Anthony Weiner. This is for
exactly.
The rest of
you
God.
got me.
All right. Thank you for bringing that up, Joanna. Tony, what do you got going on?
I'm going to endorse The Get Down, which is on Netflix. It is super cool. I am not a Moulin Rouge fan, so the parts that are most like Moulin Rouge, not a huge fan of. But the hip-hop parts and the aesthetic of the 70s really works in The Get Down. As a person who used to break dance when I was growing up,
which I still would
stuff.
pay $1 billion to see a video of you breakdancing as a kid.
My parents had that, and luckily it has disappeared. And it wasn't even my fault.
That's why I can safely say I would pay $1 billion even though I don't have it, because you have told me it's disappeared.
But as we've said before, if Clockworks or Psycom gets made into something media, I have to break dance at the premiere. Is the bet Jason and I have going on. But anyway, I think The Get Down is really, really cool. And I think I've said before, and on the Kung Fu tip, like Amazon just released this floodgate of awesome Kung Fu movies, martial arts movies, and that is amazing. There's also a really great YouTube channel that I need to post that is like the Wu-Tang Collection post, and they add videos almost every day. So, and there's hundreds up there now. Like, there's a YouTube channel that you can go to, and you can watch Kung Fu flicks for as long as you want, as you can possibly stand. And there's some really great stuff. Some of it's better than others, but I've had a blast with that.
Beautiful. Very beautiful. All right. My endorsement of the week actually is something else that I'm involved in. There is, if you're familiar with Story Bundle, which is where you can get for a small amount of money a bunch of ebooks bundled together, and they're DRM free, so you can move them to any of your devices. Super easy.
And DRM means what for those of us who don't speak the lingo?
Copy protection, basically. I think it's digital resource management, but anyway, the point is, if you get something that's quote unquote DRM free, then I can move it from one phone to another, or to my computer and back off again, and so forth, without being concerned about anything blocking me to be able to do that. So anyway, my book Spawn of Loki is part of the new Story Bundle Fantasy Bundle that is running for another week. It ends in actually 12 days. And so if you spend $5, you get 5 books. If you spend 15, you get 11 books. And a certain amount of your of the purchase price goes to the Challenger Learning Center, which is a science education related charity. So definitely you should check that out. And if you've been wanting to read one of my fantasy novels, this is a good chance to get your hands on the Spawn of Loki. So, which is the one where the characters from Shakespeare face off against the Norse bad guys.
Is that the one where you killed off my character, or was that the first one?
Your character survives.
No, in the original book.
I don't remember.
Because my character's not survived. My character.
Oh, how convenient!
Let's recall that Julia got killed off, but once the character gets changed to survive, she's no longer called Julia. So what does that tell you? I wonder.
That was intended as a double assuaging of your...
No, that's not how it works. Wait, does Detective Salvaggio, whatever his name is? Wait, no, Agent Salvaggio. Does he die too, or is he good?
He just keeps getting messed up.
Somehow comes
He's
back.
like Kenny. He's like Kenny.
Yeah. He makes it back repeatedly. I mean, slightly less whole each time. But
this is what I'm saying. Well, it's clear who's the preferred friend here.
I really didn't think about it that much when I was doing this.
Let's ask Dr.
Anyway.
Demetrios what he thinks of this.
Do you remember that movie where Aaron, Aaron Moran from Happy Days was like, I think it was called Galaxy of Terror, and this was a Roger Corman flick, Tony. Do you remember this one?
Man, yeah.
Super violent, right? Super dry, super, just grody. But I remember there was a sort of a medical examiner character in that as well. And he was very much like this Dr. Demetrios. He was kind of slimy and, spittle-inflected, and I think he was played by the sleaze-tastic Nazi from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And, it's kind of funny how this is actually, oddly enough, we've spotted 2 in the wild, so this is now a type. And I bet you we could spot more of these odd.
Yeah, I'm sure medical professionals love that portrayal.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, my endorsement, storybundle.com. Storybundle.com/fantasy is the fantasy collection. And if I haven't already put it on the Castle of Horror page, I will definitely do it again. So, that's so funny. We got so much stuff going on. So, show us your clock and go get a story bundle and all that. All right. Wow. Come to the Facebook page. Tell us if we missed something important about Blood Beach, because we are very interested. I am very interested in finding the hidden qualities in some of this work. But this was a very interesting way to kick off our summertime horror retrospective. Thanks, everybody. Leave reviews on iTunes if you have something you want to say. If you leave us a review, it really helps people find the show. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night.